Hi, this is Mark von Drasik, a physics teacher at Evanston Township High School, just north of Chicago. And this is the first of a series of videos to introduce what SEL is, social emotional learning, and what it is not, and provide it as almost like a training or review type session that teachers can have as more and more districts around the country are trying to embed SEL and the skills that are associated with it into classrooms. So the purpose of this is really to define what the SEL competencies are, which is the underlying foundation of SEL, and to think about the skills that come under that SEL umbrella within the 5 different competencies. And we're just going to stick with the traditional classic CASEL organization's definitions what SEL is. This has been around for about 30 years or more, but it's really been catching on within schools around the country, around the world, after coming out of the COVID pandemic. So the definition that we use at Evanston Township High School is identical to what CASEL's definition is, with the insertion of a couple extra words. So this is worth reading through. The whole purpose of this is to think of SEL as a process through which all young people and adults, for that matter, acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop multiple and intersecting healthy identities, manage emotions and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish, maintain, and restore supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. So what we're going to do now is kind of walk through in this video, and then successive videos after this will focus on each of the competencies and the skills that are falling under those competencies. But have this picture in your head. Why are we doing this? Why is SEL kind of the buzzword in most districts around the country now, especially after COVID? Well, that's because humans are complex. For about a century, we've been treating students as identical beings, almost kind of like an assembly line type process of education, with students being products of the education system. Students aren't products, they're human beings. They're a mix, a unique mix. Every individual is a unique mix of emotions and feelings, interests, identities. And we have to understand this if we want to get the most out of every person, if we want them to feel success and have achievements and actually get something out of the education process. Another picture to have in your head is the vast amount of different types of skills and interests, strengths and weaknesses that people have. And it's all unique, it's all individual. And we need SEL and the skills that are associated with it to be able to get at this piece of humanness, what it means to be human, and for everyone to have the life skills that they need to make it and be successful and happy and healthy within life. So CASEL, about 30 years ago, has defined these 5 competencies as the kind of the umbrella of what everyone needs to be able to be healthy and happy in life. Self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible problem solving. Now, what is not SEL? Now, many teachers, many of my colleagues, and myself originally, some years ago, was included as, is this something new on our plate? Teachers are overwhelmed. The teaching profession is sort of in a crisis mode right now, with people wanting to leave the profession, people wanting to retire early, people not wanting to go into teaching in the first place. We can't think of this as something new on our plates. Think of SEL as the plate. This is the foundation. Now at Evanston Township High School, we also then say that the SEL plate sits on the equity table, because one of our absolute primary goals is to look at equity and identify make sure that every single student, no matter what their background, no matter what situation they're in, can feel and have success within school. SEL is not soft skills. This is a term that a lot of people have had for many, many years about SEL and other related types of things in education. They're not soft skills. They're absolutely the essential life skills that every human needs and that we all practice. Part of the reason that we keep calling it soft skills is because teachers aren't generally trained in SEL, and we actually don't know. Most teachers don't know what SEL actually is, even though we use a lot of what we're going to go through within our classes every day. And SEL is not something that you should do in your class as a secondary thing. You know, if you have like a few extra minutes at the end of class, we need to put SEL, we need to put the humanity of the student at the same level as we have the academics and the content of every class that we have, especially in middle school and high school. Okay, so these I'm just going to walk through pretty quickly, just kind of flash them up on the screen. And then there will be other videos in this series that focus on each of these competencies and the skills. So here's just kind of a broad overview, to kind of get a general sense of what SEL entails. Self-awareness, the ability to recognize one's emotions, to have some kind of control over that, to understand your own behaviors and your identity. The ability to accurately assess your strengths and weaknesses for that matter, to try to have students develop a growth mindset, okay, that intelligence is not fixed, that achievement is not fixed or just set for you. You have influence over this and you can grow your entire life. Some of the skills under this, as you can see, working on, if you ever try to work with kids, to recognize their strengths, to have self-confidence, practice self-advocacy, things like this, you're already doing some of the self-awareness pieces of SEL. Self-management, how do you actually regulate your emotions in different situations? How do you manage your stress, which is so important for both students and adults? How do you set your goals? How do you make sure they're achievable and actually doable? And some of the corresponding skills that go along with this. So if you work with kids on stress management, on motivation, if you work with them on organizational skills, you're already doing some of these, but maybe you didn't realize it falls under the SEL umbrella. Okay, once you take care of yourself, how do you interact with other people? Okay, what's your social awareness competency? How do you understand the social and ethical norms of what happens within the school, at home, in the community? Now, a lot of teachers talk about empathy in the classroom. That's one of the primary skills that fall under SEL. And this is where, do you respect diversity, respect for multiple and intersecting identities, both for yourself and for others. And of course, that's at the forefront here in 2023 on the political side, that you hear about the culture wars every day. This is where it kind of falls into place. Okay, another competency, forming positive relationships. Do you listen well? Do you communicate clearly? How do students understand social pressures, both positive and negative peer pressures, for example? How do you negotiate conflict constructively when you have them with others? Do you seek help when you need it? Terribly important for teenagers. And some relationship skills, communication. All of us work on communication, teamwork, collaboration. All of this falls into what teachers do on a regular basis, but often don't focus on this with kids and talk about the importance of it. You're doing SEL if you're already doing this in the classroom. And finally, the fifth competency is responsible decision-making. The ability to make constructive choices, responsible, ethical choices. How do you evaluate the consequences of your actions and try to predict what those are beforehand? Do you think before you speak? Things like this. And here are some of the skills that we'll come back to in a future video. This is the famous castle wheel. It kind of incorporates all of this, the 5 competencies, into a single visual. Many teachers have probably seen this, but maybe never dove into the different competencies and especially the skills that come with it, and think about what that looks like in your classroom. The other thing as you go through this and as you get into SEL within your school, within your community, within your own classroom, this is an all hands on deck necessity. Everyone needs to be aware of this. Everyone needs to practice it. And let me also point out at the forefront here, it's not like you have to do this every single day of every single class. But if everyone is doing it within your school, and if you're doing it consistently, that's really the importance. Students are picking up bits and pieces of this from all of their classes on a fairly regular basis. They're seeing what these skills look like and how to do this and manage it and become a better human being in a variety of different contexts. And that's what they need when they leave school and go out into the world. And last but not least, an old phrase, generally given credit to Aristotle, educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. We're looking at the human side of students and of the adults in the building, not just the academics, not just the content. We have to put these on an equal footing, realizing that if any one of us, including our students, if we're not happy, if we're not healthy, if we have emotional issues, if we're having a bad day, we know we're not going to perform at our best. We're not going to learn to our potential. So we need to build up the SEL skills. We need students to be able to handle themselves and their emotions if we want them to learn our content. It's really that simple an idea. So this is what we're after. This is what SEL is all about. And this is what we're going to be focusing on.